Hi, I'm Linda, and this is No-frills ASMR. I thought today we could discuss the 24 plus strikes on alleged drug running boats in the Caribbean, just outside of Venezuelan waters, but in particular one that's been popping up in the news recently. Just so that I like to do this. Okay, hold on. Let me back up. I'm no expert on any of this. I have just spent part of the morning researching it so that I have a better understanding. And sort of selfishly, part of the reason is I have an upcoming cruise planned for the Southern Caribbean. And I was like, is this a good idea? So I thought we could discuss it. The area we're talking about is here's South America, here's Central America, and here's North America. All this actually. And the U.S. military has moved an aircraft carrier, a nuclear, I don't even know what it is. I guess it's a submarine, and a lot of military to the Caribbean Sea, and they are targeting boats up near Venezuela. So that's what is happening. I'm not going to try to give you a lot of opinion on this. This is more just like what's going on, so that if you find yourself in a conversation with people who are talking about it, you have a basic idea. And I'm not saying this is a jumping off point, is what I'm trying to tell you. So there is a particular incident, though, that has been coming into the news. And that is one of the very first attacks was on September 2nd of 2025. And U.S. forces struck a small boat in the Caribbean Sea. And that boat was suspected of being involved in drug smuggling and linked to a group that the U.S. government considers to be narco-terrorist organization. Okay. And my understanding is the boat is in the water, and I think that they shot it from above. Is that right? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's right. So the first strike killed most of the people on board. Now, it was kind of unusual in that there were 11 people on board, which some people are curious about, if they were actually just smuggling drugs. They don't normally have that amount of people on board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there is some question of whether there were other people who were either like human trafficking or immigrant. I don't know. There's no telling because we just don't know. Honestly, that information has not come out in any way. But there were 11 people on board. And when they struck the boat, it was blown up. But 2 people were hanging on to pieces of wreckage. And then the U.S. military went back and struck and killed those 2 people. And this is what the controversy is really about. There is controversy about just striking any of these boats in the first place. But this is what some people, and this is not just Democrats and Republicans, who question if this is getting into unlawful military strike, war crimes even, or extrajudicial killing. Because one of the U.S. military's, what is the word I'm looking for? Like rules of conduct. And this is especially like this, what I'm talking about right now, it has to do with water and stuff, is that if a ship is sinking, even if it's an enemy ship, or if people are in sick or wounded, your principle of humanity is to help. So if they're shipwrecked or whatever, and to attack is dishonorable. So that's a lot of what's going on right now. And after this happened, before it really came out publicly, I heard an interview with Senator Mark Kelly, and he is a senator from Arizona who was an astronaut and served in the military. He also is married to, what's her name? Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, I can't think of her name, but she was shot in the head one time and they were at a baseball game. Remember that? Oh, it's terrible. Anyway, where was I going with that? I was talking about Mark Kelly. I don't remember what I brought him up for. I mean, he's been talking about it a lot. I did hear him talk about it. Oh, I know. Before this even came out, because the way that the public, I think, mostly knows about it is an article in the Washington Post. Yeah, it is. It was the Washington Post. Okay. They published an article. But even before that, there were military members who were coming to the, I forget what they call it, but it's like this guy named DeLuzio and this other guy, they run like the military. So people were coming to them, military members, and saying, what do we do if we are given orders that are illegal? And so they made a video that is all these military people saying, if you're given an order that is illegal, or doesn't, that disobeys, or that doesn't line up with the Constitution, that's what I'm trying to say, you can disobey unlawful orders. And so they made that video. And that's when Trump truthed that they were, what did he call them? I can't think of the word. Anyway, and reposted. Oops, somebody's saying they should be hanged or whatever. So that was all that. But that's why they made the video. And then the article came out about this. Now, okay. Before we go further, let's look at this map real quick. Just so we can see where we are. I may have to pull this out to open it. Okay. All right, so here is, here is the Caribbean Sea. This is the Caribbean Sea. And here's Venezuela. Now, a lot of, I think, British people and Americans like to travel to the Caribbean islands, and a lot of people go to Aruba and Curaçao and Bonaire. Those are called the ABC Islands. So if you ever hear anybody say, I went on an ABC cruise, it's going to Aruba, Bonaire, Curaçao. And here is Venezuela. So it is very close to the coast. And they can't make these strikes too close to the coast or they're in Venezuelan waters. They have to be out far enough so it's international waters. And then here are the other, islands a lot of times you go to. So I'm just saying that because if you plan travel to these islands. For now, they're still saying, go ahead and do that. But I read one site said, and this is kind of scary, sometimes, they offer boat trips at night, like, the cruise and drink all you want kind of boat trip around at night. They said, don't do that. I'm like, oh my God, that's kind of crazy. Because, of a concern that there could be confusion. Sorry, I was going to show. So here's Venezuela. But I was wondering about if there could be any retaliatory strikes. That's kind of would be my concern with traveling down here. But as far as we know right now, I think it's still okay to travel. I think they have not to Venezuela itself, but to these islands out here. There's Bonaire, Trinidad, Grenada, which wasn't that the Reagan administration turned that into a thing. So anyway, all right. Is anybody doing that this year and thinking about it? Okay, sorry, I wanted to set that book down because it's huge. Okay, so there's the basics of what is going on. So 11 people were killed, and 2 were killed kind of after the fact. Now, in the beginning of this, the U.S. Pentagon spokesperson, his name is Sean Parnell. All right, so when this Post article first came out, Sean Parnell went on Twitter and said, this is all false, it's fake news, none of this happened, that the press is fabricating the stories. And then pretty quickly, because there is video of it all, I think, the White House confirmed that, yes, this happened. So already that's leading some people to go, why are you saying fake news? And now you're confirming. Okay. And then it kind of came out that at first they said Pete Hegseth gave a broad order, and I read somewhere that it was like in a text. Hopefully not a signal chat. But anyway, and Pete Hegseth, who's the, head of the Department of War, which used to be the DOD, which was Department of Defense. It's now the Department of War. But he gave an order, at least the Washington Post reported, that was kill everybody. So at first, Pete and President Trump were at a, press conference or whatever, and they said that they made the order, but the admiral took it too far. That the admiral directed the engagement. Okay, so that was sort of the original thing. And then, now, I think as of today, which I think is December 4th, I read that Hegseth and I think this admiral, now his name is Admiral Frank, and his middle name's M, but they call him, I guess he's kind of nicknamed Mitch Bradley. He's with the U.S. Navy. So he has now come out and said, no, there was never a kill everybody order. So I don't know. So already that story's a little murky. And I don't know what the Washington Post has, if they have copies of it. I'm not sure of that. Now, Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt was on the news yesterday, the day before. I forget, I saw her. And she said that it's legal because we say it is. That was sort of her defense. Legal because we say it. Yeah, that's what she said. That's what she said. Okay, so the way that the Trump administration, the White House, are... By the way, Carolyn Leavitt also said it was self-defense, but that self-defense claim seems, because they weren't even in the water. Like, how are they shooting these guys and calling that self-defense? I don't know. That doesn't add up, but that was what she said in the first place. Okay, so to start with, they're assuming these are drug trafficking boats. They very well probably may be drug trafficking boats. I think overall, everybody agrees that stopping drug trafficking is a good thing. Now, a senator from Kentucky, Rand Paul, who's a Republican, by the way, he's been very against all these blowing up of boats because he sees it as a way to start a war with Venezuela. That could be part of why they want to, from my understanding, start something with Venezuela is because the current leader, Maduro, is that right? I think so. He's a bad guy, and he got in there maybe illegally, like the system was rigged. And so there is some feeling that the U.S. wants to pressure Venezuela to have him step down and put somebody else in leadership there. Now, the U.S. has a history of this not working out so great when we try to force our, changing of leadership in countries. That doesn't always work so great. But anyway, but that's sort of a backstory. So Rand Paul has talked to the Coast Guard and, said it's normally they pull over, they target whatever 200 boats. They actually pull over, they board the boat, they arrest the people, they get the drugs. Rand Paul says 25% had no drugs on the boat, but there's a little more to that story because some of those boats are going out to refuel the drug boats. They are connected, so it's not like they're innocent, but that's how this is normally done. The Coast Guard is in charge of knowing the waters, knowing who's on the waters, going and, boarding the boats and checking. So that's how it normally works. So this just going in and bombing boats is unusual. And like Carolyn Leavitt says, we're doing the right thing. We're going after drug traffickers. But there has been no proof that they are drug traffickers. So some people are like, are they just fishermen? Are they, whatever? So we don't know. But it does appear that when they do have drugs on the boat, and I think a lot of them do, it's cocaine. Coming out of South America, cocaine is the number one thing. So the real issue in the U.S. is fentanyl. And I listened to a podcast once that was talking about the addiction of fentanyl and how wholly addictive it is. I wish I could tell you. It may have been, I don't know, I can't remember. If I think of the podcast, I'll tell you. But they were talking to this guy. This is a side note on fentanyl. And he was talking about how much worse it is than heroin, because heroin, I forget what they call it when you're after you take, a hit of it or a dose or whatever you want to call it, that it takes a certain amount of time before you're starting to really tweak again and need some more. And with heroin, you have like, I forget what it is, 24 or 48 hours before you're really, really bad. So if you make the decision to go get help, you have time to do that. But with fentanyl, it's like a 4-hour washout rate or whatever they call it. So like this one guy, he wanted to help himself because he's homeless and he's on fentanyl and he's addicted. And so he goes to the place to get help, and they're like, well, we can't help you today because we're all full up for today or whatever. We can come back tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. And by that time, he's like disappeared again. I mean, it's a very difficult problem. So fentanyl is really the major, major issue. And from all accounts, I mean, all accounts, almost all fentanyl comes from China through Mexico on the ground, not in boats and not out of Venezuela. Okay. So where was I going with that? Anyway, so this event is on film. There is video. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Now there's a representative from Mississippi, Roger Wicker. I listened to a little bit with him, and he says there is video, and so they will investigate and figure out what happened. Now, it does seem like right now, Hegseth is definitely putting the responsibility onto this Admiral Frank Mitch Bradley. And it may be that he will take the fall for this, or is guilty of it. I don't know what you want to say. If it's even a crime, which we don't even know yet, is it a crime? Because that's another thing. So my guess is they're going to portray Admiral Bradley as acting independently in this and interpreting the order too aggressively. And then if he gets charged, he could be pardoned immediately. But if I were him, I'd still worry about, foreign prosecution or international crimes or civil lawsuits. Like that could be an issue. But the question will be, for now, is this considered a war crime? Or in what they call, my pen is dying, extrajudicial killing? Because, they didn't get a day in court or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? Or unlawful military strike. So that's, the thing that a lot of people are debating now. Like, is it even a war crime? Because the White House is saying that they are a terrorist organization. They have qualified certain drug cartels as terrorist organizations. And so they can use war tactics against the terrorist organizations that are these drug cartels. So those will be the questions I think that they will have to ask and figure out. My guess is that they will say, I'm just totally speculating. It'll just become a political thing. It'll probably never even get to, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But they are calling certain cartels terrorist organizations, so military rather than law enforcement has to deal with it. That's what the Trump administration is saying. I mean, right now they've carried out over 24 strikes on these boats, and they haven't shown any evidence that they are cartels, but they say they have plenty of evidence, so it just depends on, I don't know, What do you guys think? Any thoughts on this? So we'll see what happens. But I think that's kind of the basic of the whole thing. So if you're just like, well, what's going on? That's kind of what's going on. Oh, the other thing, Trump just the other day, I think he truthed. No, he didn't. I saw an interview, I guess, where he talked about it. And he said the airspace above Venezuela is closed. I don't know that he has actually any, he doesn't control that airspace. But it made people wonder, are you going in with airstrikes? Is that why you're saying that? And he said, don't jump to conclusions or something. And then he said that ground strikes are coming soon. Now, is this all just to put pressure on this Maduro to step down? I don't know. I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know. But so that happened too. I mean, it could just be to put some pressure. I don't know. All right. I don't know if I have anything else. And I know this was just sort of super random and but a lot of legal experts say if the reporting by the Post is accurate, and they were targeting survivors, that likely violates international law and U.S. military law. And so there is a law of war manual, and attacking shipwrecked or incapacitated people, that's illegal. So, I mean, there's definitely precedent there, and will international people want to step in? I don't know. And then some people are saying that Hegseth saying kill everyone order, if he even said that, it's what the Washington Post reported, that is tantamount to ordering no quarter, which historically is considered a war crime. So that's why you keep hearing people say it's a war crime, it's a war crime. On the other hand, there are supporters that argue that the U.S. government has designated the group as narco-terrorist and that this qualifies as an armed conflict, and the boat and its occupants were legitimate military targets. So that's the central claim used to justify the strike. But that justification, is controversial, even within the, it's not like all Democrats. There are Republican military members who are like, this isn't, feeling right. And especially because the victims were not captured and given trial. And there is no evidence that they posed an ongoing combat threat or any kind of continued hostility. So many human rights and legal observers call the second strike extrajudicial killing. So at the moment, it's just not legally settled. We don't know where this will go right now. So something to keep an eye on. All right. I don't know if I have anything else to say about that. Yeah. The White House has said that each of these boats that they've taken out would have accounted for 25,000 people dying of drug overdose. I can't understand where that figure comes from. Because again, I don't think anyone's saying there's fentanyl on these boats. It's cocaine. So I just don't know the reality of that statement. If you guys have any thoughts on it, I'm happy to hear it. Anyway, all right. I will talk to you soon. first, Hegseth said he did say that, but the Admiral took it too seriously. But now the Admiral and Pete say he never said that. So, I don't know. And this is all in off the waters of Venezuela. In water that is outside of Venezuela